Hi, this is Pat Moorhead with More Insights and Strategy, and I am super excited to announce the episode 1 of the More Insights and Strategy Data Center podcast. I run the company, I founded the company, but more important than me are my co-hosts, Matt, Will, and Paul. So what are we going to be doing on this podcast? It's pretty simple. We're going to be talking about the data center. We're also going to be talking about the data center edge as well. So we're going to be talking compute, storage, networking, operations, AI, and a lot more. Little disclaimer here. We are going to talk about some public companies. Don't take any of this as investment advice. Get a professional. In fact, just do the opposite of what any of us infer out there. So guys, how you doing?
Awesome.
Great. Yeah.
We should all be in Austin, but I'm not. Will, are you? Wait, no. Will, you're back in Texas. I'm in Florida, so we may have done the high five on the way in.
We did. We crossed on the turnpike, and I'm in Austin. And I'm planning to go out to the Dell Match Play. It's last year at Austin Country Club, so I'm wearing my Masters polo shirt.
Very nice.
I love it. I love it. Got the invite, couldn't make it. I'm supporting the family. Believe it or not, these are not my horse ribbons behind me. I did not win them. In fact, I am possibly the ugliest person on English writing. It requires rhythm, and I have none of it. But hey, let's jump in. We have some great topics today. We're going to be talking Lenovo storage, some announcements that they did on the product side and also on the market share side. We're going to talk about HP acquiring just about everybody.
Yeah.
Just in the past few months, they acquired 3 companies. We're going to talk about Cisco publishing their Cybersecurity Ready Index. Cisco is always so good at getting out these indexes. They've been doing that for over 25 years. And then we're going to finish with Paul and the group talking about GTC 2023. Mm-hmm. So let's dive in. Topic 1 of show 1, Lenovo storage announcements.
Man, I go first, huh? This is a lot of pressure.
Nervous.
So here's the headline from Lenovo. Last quarter announcements, 345% growth for storage by some accounts.
Wait. Time out here. Lenovo does storage? I thought they were just doing compute.
Well, that is the other headline. Well, this is the beauty of Lenovo, right? And we'll get into the product announcements, but this is the beauty of Lenovo. It's kind of like copying the same playbook that they did in compute and servers, right? They came out of nowhere. They go after that business that other companies might not be paying as much attention to. They build gravity around that, and all of a sudden, they have a major presence in the segment they're chasing after. By their accounts, they are number 1 in the less than $25,000 price band for storage. That's huge. So you go, well, that's the low end, right? But that's 61% of the market. So they captured a huge segment of that market. You're seeing a lot of growth in mid-range, a lot of growth in the very high end, the all-flash array side of the equation, and they're killing it. And I love the approach they take. It's I liken it to compute. I think back to when Kirk Skaugen first came into the company. He came in and they went after while some companies were kind of retreating from the cloud a little bit and pulling back. He went all in. He figured out a model that worked where he could maintain margins and still capture market share. Went all in, went after HPC all in. He's taken that same approach with storage. That's what I love about this company. And all of the OEMs have their unique way of approaching that is interesting and fun. But I really like this approach that his team has taken on the storage side. So it's not just that they're announcing this market momentum. They've announced partnerships in the high end with Weka for the super high end kind of AI side of the equation. They are working on leveraging kind of cross-functional sell-in capabilities or sell-out capabilities through the channel with this one Lenovo approach they have. So server guys can sell storage guys can sell server, PC folks can sell servers, and server folks can sell PCs. It's this kind of 2 + 2 = 5 equation that's really kind of playing into their success. I'm kind of curious to see how this plays out over the upcoming quarters. 345% is huge. It's coming from a very low starting point, but it's still really impressive. 345%. I don't think I've ever written that or said that as far as growth goes associated with the company. So what do you think?
Yeah, I mean the biggest number that they brought out too was TrueScale, right? They 600% year over year, which is incredible. Now, listen, you and I both get quarterly updates with Kirk, and the thing that I love about, I don't know, being around him the last, I guess, 5 to 6 years has been he'll say, okay, this year we're going to be this, okay. He has the guts and the courage to come out and say that. So I'm super looking forward into what Kirk is going to say next at his big analyst event. And I don't think how many of us can sit in some sort of a briefing and somebody's not talking about how data is getting bigger. Well, guess what? If data has to sit on something.
Yeah.
So whether you're computing it, whether you're moving it. With networking, you have to store it as well. So not only is he gaining share, but he's gaining share in a growing market. What some people might think too is that, hey, this is about China. Well, guess what? Their largest sector is the United States that they sell into. This is a lot bigger than a China play. They sell a ton in Western Europe. Of course, South America, Eastern Europe, and yeah, they do sell some stuff in China, but it's not nearly as large as people think it is. So, hey, let's move into the next topic, and this is essentially, and Will and I are going to split this up on leading this, but this is the HP acquires everybody part. So, Will, why don't you kick this one off?
Thanks, Pat. Yeah, and I think it's more than 3 companies. I think I read an email from the team there, over 6 acquisitions over the last several months. So I'm going to talk about 2. The first one is Athonet. And so at Mobile World Congress, and I wrote about this in my Forbes write-up, I had a chance to meet with the CFO, also head of strategy at HPE, and we talked about this acquisition. What's really unique from my perspective is that HPE, they've had a very mature telco business unit. They've been doing a lot with OSS and BSS, orchestration, the software layer, automation. They're driving a lot in Open RAN. Where they were deficient was having a core element to that to put with the RAN. And so with Athonet, that acquisition shores that up, gives them the ability to have a core, leverage that, and compete with the likes of, for example, Cisco that has a private 5G as a service. So I think from my perspective, a very, very smart move. When I spent time with the CFO, he talked about how they're going to leverage this into private networking and really provide an extension of what they're already doing with their Aruba footprint within the enterprise. But I know that you got the news as well. What are your thoughts about this?
I mean, listen, it was the talk, part of the talk of the show. There were a few talks at Mobile World Congress, and this was definitely one. And I think, in kind of a wink, wink, nudge, nudge, maybe with some of their competitors, I think they were like, I think I should have bought this. I should have, I should have snagged this. But, listen, doing tuck-in acquisitions is one thing. Turning them into, gigantic money makers is another. Right. HP's done a great job with Aruba, and maybe, we can say right now that that merging it in is complete. In fact, does the Aruba name still exist, Will?
It does. So there's been some repositioning of the marketing. It's Aruba Networking now. Aruba, as you mentioned, acquired over a decade ago, and after the founders, Kurtzi and Parth, the CEO and CTO, departed, they've kind of folded that that division into the HPE mothership, And so now it's Aruba Networking is the brand. Long way to answer your question.
No. This is good. I know you're a lot closer to it than I am. So let's talk Axis. What is this all about?
Yeah, so Axis Security, this was announced right at the beginning of March. And from my perspective, it's a great acquisition. So what Axis does is secure security edge, SSE. It's becoming a vital part of any SD-WAN or SASE offering. You could argue that Aruba, they've been a leader with respect to SD-WAN and SASE. I hate quoting the Gartner term SASE, but it is what it is. But at the end of the day, from my perspective, the SSE functionality really shores up some gaps that they had, so they can deliver a complete solution and do that, via the cloud as well. So again, from my perspective, a very precise and targeted acquisition that really addresses some roadmap gaps. And, this is a great example of how a lot of companies, if they don't want to spend a year to 2 years in organic roadmap development effort, you go acquire a company that's been doing it for a year, plug them in. There's some integration work that has to go along with that, but it gets them up to par. So that's my quick take on it.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I have absolutely no comment on this one. No game. What about you, Paul or Matt? You got anything on this one?
I find it, HPE is really interesting to me from a security perspective, because it's, when you think of like security players in the market, you think of Cisco, you think of, and on the true, you think of the Palo Altos of the world, but HPE has quietly built a really strong security portfolio. So, you look at it, Will, from the perspective of like Aruba and some of the acquisitions they've made on the compute side. I look at how they've hardened their servers and how they've acquired technologies that go up the app stack to provide kind of gap-free security. I'm kind of curious how they're going to take all of this into as a security portfolio and integrate it into one fully managed service. It's they have all the parts. It's going to be really fun to watch.
Yeah
Totally. So let's move into this next one. I'm going to call my own number, and that's a company called OpsRamp. And OpsRamp is a company that is an amalgamation of many different functions when it comes to the data center. It monitors, it does observability, automates, and manages IT infrastructure. So this was a missing piece that I had thought for a while. I mean, you could partner with Ansible on automation. You could partner with Splunk, Dynatrace on observability. But this is one of the few companies that amalgamates all of these into one. And it's clear to me that HPE is giving its customers a choice, which is, do you want to go with, quote unquote, category killer, best of breed, or do you want to go with a more holistic, integrated offering? And at some point, integration becomes the key, right? Like we're seeing in security, where IT is sick of integrating multiple packages, even though they could have 75 different security packages that are quote unquote best in breed. But the problem is they're typically too off of the latest rev because they're spending most of their time doing the integration.
That's right.
So the value prop with HPE right now is that you can get it one-stop shop. It's integrated across core infrastructure that's not only on-prem, but also on-prem as a service. You can manage data. It's networking all the way from the core, a little bit in the core, but definitely to the edge. My final thought on this is that I like this because my premise about the future of the cloud, and again, this isn't bombshell, but it's hybrid multi-cloud. And the way that different enterprises are going to jockey around that is to have different types of fabric, okay? And whether that's an application fabric, let's call it, containers that they can do on-prem, or 80 different versions in the public clouds, including sovereign cloud. There's going to be data mesh. There's going to be data fabric. And I could see this ITOM fabric where HPE can make money not only on-prem or on-prem as a service with GreenLake, but also make money if their customers go to the public cloud. It's something I've given Cisco a ton of credit for, which is regardless of what modality or where you're doing your IT, we are going to make money off of that. Yeah. Cisco, for example, security, observability, and networking that you can take across the hybrid cloud.
And by the way, Pat, integrate those features into the stack and create new revenue opportunities as well. That's what Cisco's been doing with Thousand Eyes. And I think your point on observability is spot on. That was a weakness that HPE had. Cisco addressed that with its acquisition, nearly $1 billion of Thousand Eyes a few years ago. They've been and they've been integrating Thousand Eyes into the overall stack. I learned at Cisco Live EMEA some new use cases and some new monetization opportunities that Cisco is driving. So from my perspective, this is a great acquisition for HPE because it addresses that gap that they had in observability. But I'm sure Matt's got some thoughts here too.
I always have thoughts.
Well, by the way, we don't all have to have thoughts.
But I do on this one.
If you have a thought, bring it.
I'm an old manageability guy from way back, right? And I remember, pre-HPE when Compaq had their own management capabilities. And, the whole promise of AI ops, every OEM is talking about it. But here's what I find interesting about what HPE is doing. Every OEM talks about it in terms of how they're going to manage their infrastructure. With OpsRamp, this is a multi-vendor observability, multi-vendor operations management capability, right? There is no favored child, so to speak. Yeah. And this is where I think HPE can really differentiate it because it doesn't just span multi-cloud; it spans everything that's on your network. It's such a cool story.
Well, this definitely is different. I mean, Dell partners, and so does Lenovo, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's really Cisco and an HPE game here. And I think the key differences that I see is that HPE has built, they built their own Kubernetes offering, right? All the way at the base, moving up to HPE. Cisco's gotten a little bit away from compute. So I think HPE is carving out some ground, but with all of this software from HPE, they really have to make the sale that we're going to be good at this.
Yeah.
And HPE over the last decade has had some varying levels of degree of success with software, but I am impressed. I mean, listen, I came in probably 5 or 6 years ago a doubter because if you remember, some of the big software acquisitions ended up being an absolute nightmare for them, and then they jettisoned pretty much all of them. But I've been impressed with the way that they have been able to do this and their ability to convert that to revenue and cash. So I think we've drained this topic everything we could. Let's go into Cisco that publishing their annual Cybersecurity Readiness Index.
Yeah,
Will, you're number man.
Yeah, I'm the security guy. Although we all play security and have security responsibilities here and there, but like you mentioned, Pat, at the top of the broadcast, Cisco's been doing this for quite a while. I mean, they put a lot of effort into this. It's been going on for many years, and there were a few things that sort of struck me as eye-opening. And in fact, the Cisco team interviewed me, and I was featured in their payload announcement around this. And so they kind of recorded some of my thoughts. But two things that really kind of stood out for me. Number one, a statistic on with the current survey around the fact that only 15% of respondents stated that they felt that their organizations were well prepared for a cyber attack. That is frightening right there. And from my perspective, we're obviously dealing with inflationary pressures. The Fed continues to raise interest rates to try to slow down the economy. But I don't think, given that statistic, companies need to continue to invest in cybersecurity and threat prevention and mitigation, because it's not going to stop. I mean, bad actors are getting more and more sophisticated, and it's going to continue. The other stat that I found, surprising, because I thought it would have been a lot more, was average loss of productivity or profitability or business impact at $500,000. Now, you could argue, well, it depends on the survey sample. Were these mid-market, were these large enterprises? I asked that question of Cisco, didn't get a straight answer on that, but suffice it to say, a business loss of an average of $500,000 seems really underreported to me. I would have expected the opportunity cost for denial of service and even just ransomware, that tends to be in the millions of dollars or millions of euros. But those are the two sort of eye-opening statistics that I found.
Yeah, it's interesting. So a little bit of kind of stepping back. A lot of people don't look or think of Cisco when you think of security, but they're a top 3 revenue vendor for security. And what they did that was super smart is, first of all, they bought some cutting edge properties, right, for security, and they integrated them knowing that what IT, again, back to what I had said previously about security when we talk about access, was enterprises are getting sick of integration. The cost and time of integration is actually making them less secure.
Right.
The second unique thing about Cisco in here is that they marry observability with security.
Yeah.
Right. And shocker, if you look at, because they own most parts of the network, they can cut off certain parts of the network if there's an intrusion, right? In fact, there was a pivot that I saw with Cisco, I don't know if it was 5 or 6 years ago, where it wasn't just networking, it was networking as security.
Yeah.
And they came in there, made some acquisitions, pulled those together, and it's pretty impressive. And by the way, I think they were the #1 security property out there in terms of revenue, and then Microsoft put the pedal to the metal in there, and I think nipped them right out there. But listen, if you're a top 3, great. The other thing I like about Cisco's networking play is, again, doesn't matter where it is, on-prem, on the edge, in the public cloud, they can still get money. And every quarter, you talk about, Chuck gets up and talks about the amount of revenue as a service, or the recurring revenue, and then software revenues, and how much of those are recurring revenues. So good job. And Cisco is just known. I mean, I don't know if you guys know this, but the term corporate thought leadership came from a core group at Cisco. That gentleman who was there, who was advising them, his name is John Volkman, used to run part of corporate marketing. It's funny, I think at one point he worked for me, and at one point I worked for him. But he came and did this, and part of this was creating surveys and indexes like this to be able to show thought leadership. And that's exactly what this do. It's great to see that 20 years later, Cisco is still doing this.
Yeah.
Cisco, I might add, Cisco announced that they're going to start a quantum lab in Santa Clara, California.
Oh, wow.
And they'll be working on photonics and different things, but quantum keys are, commercially viable right now. And with all the issues coming up with quantum safe and people hacking into old databases to save it for later on when they can use quantum computing to hack into it. So I suspect they're probably going to be going after that market at some time.
That's interesting. And so far, IBM seems to be taking the lead on quantum safe. I mean, not only does IBM have quantum computing, but they're a top 10 security vendor as well.
Yeah, Paul, I'll have a final comment on that point. So Liz Centoni, that drives emerging tech at Cisco, at Cisco Live EMEA, she spoke at a very high level about quantum. and what they're doing there. And I think we're going to learn a lot more at Cisco Live in early June around their strategy with quantum.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Yeah.
So, hey, let's move into our final topic, and that is NVIDIA GTC 2023. I mean, 36 blogs and press releases, Paul, 4 days, but I'm going to give you 5 minutes. We're going to give you 5 minutes to talk about it. No, what were the highlights from your point of view? I mean, you know, they did a lot of automotive stuff and Omniverse and IoT and robots. Hey, we're here to talk about data center.
Yeah,
tell us about what they did.
Yeah, it's a great time to be involved with AI right now. It's also kind of a bad time. Last night, my 13-year-old granddaughter was talking to one of her friends, and they were talking about GPT. I walked in this morning, and my wife had the laptop in front of her watching CNBC. And when I passed her, she said, "Do you know anything about GPT?" So I come to my office this morning and turn on the news, and what's on? Of course, GPT. So it's a good time. Two of the really interesting things that NVIDIA announced at GTC was, I think, you know, what's really going to impact the democratization of AI is they announced a cloud-based AI supercomputer.
Yeah.
And it's going to be the core components of it, of course, are the NVIDIA H100 Tensor Core GPUs. These things are monsters. They've got in each one they've got 640 gigabytes. You can stack these things together. The NVIDIA GPUs, you can stack them together. You can put 256 of them together. And it includes a transformer engine that can solve up to a trillion parameter language model. So it's going to be really interesting. Each, like I said, each instance has got 8 of these H100s, and each instance starts at around $37,000. So it's got everything integrated into the cloud, and forms a basis for another offering that they've got called NVIDIA AI Foundation. Mm-hmm. And the AI Foundation consists of basically 3 foundation models that enterprises can come in and use on the cloud. They've got one called Nemo, one called Picasso, and one called NeoBio. So Picasso is a art language model. Nemo is a large language model that you can enterprises can come in and use their own proprietary databases and whatever to construct their own generative AI models. And they've got the bio, which is molecular and protein based. So they've got a huge array of generative AI models that it's definitely going to impact the market. And it's going to create a lot of research, and I imagine a lot of breakthroughs are going to come through with this stuff. So it's all good.
Yeah, you know, I'm going to comment on the business model. This was my biggest aha of this entire thing, which is if you look at both NVIDIA DGX Cloud and NVIDIA AI Foundations, these business models are sold by NVIDIA and fulfilled at the hyperscaler. Okay, Azure, GCP, and OCI.
Yeah.
There's no AWS in there. Okay, and NVIDIA takes the revenue for that as well. So, in essence, they become an IaaS provider that's distributed through 3 out of the top 4 clouds, just not the biggest one.
Yep.
And the second thing with AI Foundations, what's your alternative is PaaS, right? So what they've set up is a PaaS model. So they've gone from, and if you think about it, the timing of this is extraordinary. Like, when can you do something like this?
Right.
You do something like this when the current state of, I'll call it scaled competition, is low, right? There's a lot of competitors. There's to NVIDIA AI, there's AMD, there's Tenstorrent, there's Grok. There's like Graphcore, 20 other companies out there, but at scale, Intel, right, with Habana, and what they do on Xeon with some of its special blocks. But this is when your stock is high, and not the real stock price, but the proverbial stock price, you can do this stuff. On one hand, right, Paul used the word democratization. On the other hand, I could be like, moving up vertical integration, baby, right?
Mhm.
So let's just say somebody comes in with a better hardware platform, which, by the way, AMD has some incredible AI hardware, and so does Intel. But it's the developers that the de facto standard is CUDA, right?
Yep.
So now NVIDIA's taken this a next step.
That's right.
And going up vertical integration, and I just find it absolutely fascinating. There was an analyst Q&A with Jensen I attended yesterday. He was very clear. He's like, see what we did in gaming. We created what we thought was the greatest experience for gamers. Mm-hmm. And then we distribute that through people. We do a ton of software. And by the way, my son, who is a hardcore gamer, he is locked into their software platform.
Right.
And it'd be hard to get off. So he wants to run that same play on data center AI, and I find it fascinating.
That what's amazing to me is the timing. I mean, a month before, you've got OpenAI dominating the media and the public's attention with GPT-3, and then NVIDIA comes out with a complete package.
Right.
I mean, it's totally amazing.
I commented on my earlier morning podcast, which is this just timing? Is it luck, or do people make their own luck?
Yeah.
I think NVIDIA works very closely with the research community, and in a way they enabled this. And I went back 2 or 3 GTCs, and NVIDIA had this curve showing the up and to the right nature. Actually, we do it over here, I'm reversed. Up and to the right nature of how big these models were getting. So they telegraphed it. And they told people also, I've seen SaaS companies come out of the woodwork that they're saying, oh, we've used natural models foundational models for 3 years. That was an aha. So it just captured everybody's imagination to where your 13-year-old granddaughter and your wife is talking about it. I have yet to get these questions, but NVIDIA is going to completely clean up on this. I'm very interested to see what AWS's reaction is going to be to this whole thing.
$37,000 a pop. They can't make them fast enough, and their brand is strong enough that Azure, OCI, and GCP are offering NVIDIA branded solutions. That says it all right there, Pat. They're not cleaning up; they've cleaned up.
Every cloud service has got 6 elements to it. They've got pre-trained models, they've got frameworks, they've got vector databases, personalization, optimization, inference engines, APIs, and plus they support it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an amazing offer, I think.
I'll just add as well. I mean, I know this is our data center podcast, but I'm also impressed with what they're doing within service provider, scientific computing. I mean, not only are they just, nailing it with the timing and the package, but they're going multi-vertical. And there was an announcement with AT&T where they're helping AT&T with intelligent truck rolls and helping them, deploy their 5G network, cell sites faster and more efficiently. And so they're just, from my perspective, boy, Jensen and the team, they're just knocking it out of the park.
I think, Pat, you hit it really well. It's there are a lot of really good competing hardware platforms out there, and this has been true for the last 10 years or so. CUDA is where they staked, a lot of investment, and you go into any university, computer science program, and that's what the kids are learning, right? And they're coming out, and that's what they're doing. It's like they've done an amazing job of building that ecosystem and enabling it.
I left AMD about 12 years ago, and the previous 5, right after we had bought ATI, we were banging our heads against the wall, which is, hey, what else can we do with a GPU, right? And we were investing in some basic research. We were investing in colleges, but what NVIDIA did is they programmatized it, right? First GTC I attended, it was after I had left AMD. I walked into a booth there, and back when people used to print things, they had a book of applications that were CUDA optimized and enabled. And I looked at that book and I'm like, have they won yet? Did they just win? And it reminds me of how Project Silver Lake with AS400 with IBM was born, which was they didn't beat digital on the mini computer because of the hardware. And by the way, that DEC hardware, PDP-11, and those were amazing things compared to, I guess, the S360 mainframe at IBM. But what they didn't have, the Project Silver Lake and the AS400 had, was this giant book of applications that were optimized for it. So interesting stuff. Any other comments on GTC related to the data center?
Well,
all right.
Let me just throw one more thing in, Pat. The fact that they've got so, I think this is basically a historic moment in AI, what they've done. But they've already got Adobe, Getty, Images, Shutterstock, and a whole bunch of other customers that are using this. They're taking a proprietary database, creating another generative AI using NVIDIA's cloud AI supercomputer, but they're using their own proprietary data to create these.
Yeah, think about the conversation too with NVIDIA, which is like, okay, we're the arms dealer. We have right now available the ability to get you in the game on this, right? And hey, what's your story to your shareholders?
That's right.
Right, on this. What's the story to your board when they ask you, hey, what are you doing in generative AI, even though they've never asked that question before? NVIDIA shows up, right? So yeah, I'm so glad you added those, because the big question, and I had this months ago about this whole generative AI thing, is there is no free lunches. You can't just steal data and train on it and call it a day. You just can't do that. And what we've found is that a central point of consolidation on some of the planet's most valued content goes through NVIDIA. Fascinating stuff, folks. And Paul, I know you've got a blog that you're going to be working on to air all of this out. So, hey, folks, we made it, the inaugural edition. Maybe we'll have a fancy name for it, maybe we won't, but nobody will be confused that this is about data centers and data center at the edge, and whether it's on-prem, in the public cloud, as a service, any way you like it, we're here to cover it. Maybe what I'd love to know is, what are travel plans? What shows do y'all have coming up? I mean, I've been on the road nonstop. I just did I spent 3.5 days in Poughkeepsie, New York with the IBM systems team. I'm headed next week for a day, HP Amplify. Nothing to do with data centers, but I cover a lot of stuff. I poach on everything. I'm going to be headed April 4th to Houston, Texas. No, Texas.
Spring, Texas. Yes.
To be HPE Storage Day with Matt. I've already chatted with Antonio and folks. We're gonna shake hands, maybe break some bread. I've got a stealth trip to the West Coast on the 3rd. You'll see who I visit, but they've asked me to keep it quiet. It is data center related as well. But that's it for me. How about y'all? Where are you going? What are you attending that you can talk about? This is a live show, so don't spill on this show. Come on, Will. Are you?
Oh, I'll go. I'll go. So I'll be spending time with Fortinet in early April. So looking forward to their Accelerate event, and and then the other thing that's on my radar screen is my first year anniversary. My wife and I will be headed to Paris mid-April.
Congratulations!
So thank you. But and then May, June, it's a word. It's HPE Discover. I'll be covering RSA virtually, as well as Aruba Atmosphere virtually, and then Cisco Live will be here by early June. So my travel schedule is already mapped out.
Yeah. I'm going to be, I think I'm going to be just moving to the West Coast because it seems like I'm going to be out there for the next couple months. There's a RSA conference. Oracle's got a really cool event going on. Nutanix has a great event going on that I'll be attending. I can't wait for the HPE stuff, but it's nonstop. And this is the exciting time. And then it kind of caps with Dell Tech World and HPE Discover that Will mentioned. It's going to be a lot of fun. Going to be a lot of fun. A lot of miles.
Yeah.
I've got conferences I'm looking at. I haven't decided on yet, but I've got a couple of client meetings to go to over the next couple of months. So I don't say anything about those, but we'll be keeping busy.
Nice. All right, guys, we did it. The inaugural edition. I'm going to close this out. So, hey, I want to thank everybody for joining us for this More Insights and Strategy Data Center podcast. Tell us what you like. We're all on social media. Give the good comments to me. Give the bad comments to Will, Matt, and Paul. You know where to find us. But hit that subscribe button. Give us feedback. We love it. And have a great weekend. We will be here 2 weeks from now. Same bat channel, same time. Take care.